Wondrous Creatures from Bad Comet Games was a game that really drew me in with its little mechanism of a little magnetic person that attached to a little animal thing and then you use it on the board somehow. And that's really just what drew me in. So was there enough game and everything else there to make me enjoy it? Well, stick around after break and I'll tell you if it did as I tell you how I think it'd go. Here we are in the process of setting up for a two-player game of Wondrous Creatures. You are going to be shuffling up the deck and laying out a display of cards. You're going to put the excess eggs there, energy there, nets there. I only have 2 because at most you can have 3, so I just have it set up for just my play. You're then going to shuffle up the discovery tokens, put 3 in the display, put your time marker out there. Each player puts their score marker on the ship, put some score tokens there that they can collect. You're going to put out trophies based on the number of players, in this instance 10. You're going to create the goals. There are these brown goals, which are the main goals. You're going to put those, choose 3 of them, put them on the correct side. You're then going to deal out 2 of these multi-species goals. You're then going to grab the single species goals, remove any of the species cards that are shown on there, shuffle remaining 3, and put 2 of those out, so you will have 6 different species between the 4 cards. Then to finish it up, you are going to take the time tokens, shuffle them up, draw 2 of them, which will denote a symbol. You are then going to grab this bag that's got 5 of each eggs in it. You're going to draw out eggs, putting them on spots that match that symbol. So there. Like so. You are then going to take the 3 other time tokens, shuffle them up, and place them on these yellow outline spots there, face down. Let's reshuffle those up, putting them face down. You're then going to take these other 2 that you used, mix them up, and again, face down on the remaining 2 spots. Each player is going to grab a player board, their achievement markers, 3 workers. They're going to be choosing a captain, grabbing the captain meeple, putting it on their magnetic meeple, getting a net, putting a lock token on their special ability, grabbing markers to go in the 1 spot of each resource, and then the player aids. Then each player will get 8 cards, choosing 4 to keep and discarding the rest. And with that, you are ready to play. Players are going to be taking turns going back and forth, taking 1 basic action per turn, possible free actions, until all of the trophies are depleted. Once the trophies are depleted, every other player takes 1 additional turn, and then you move on to end game scoring. For your actions on a turn, the first thing you can do is you can place a crew member. You're going to place a crew member straddling through 2 different spots. Placing on these areas are free. Placing on the mountains are going to cost you a resource. It's just 1 resource whether or not you straddle 1 mountain or do both. This is denoted right here. And you cannot place your creature on the water. When you place your creature out, if there is an egg there, you will grab the egg and you'll place it on your egg board, getting the bonus that is depicted there. Any of these brown scores happen immediately. Red scores happen at the end of the game. And when you put your egg in, make sure to put it unhatched side up. That is the hatch side. So that would go right here, and I would gain 1 point. You then are going to look at the biomes that are surrounding you. In this instance, it's 2 of the flowers. You have 2 choices. You can take 1 of the resources that's depicted, or you can take a card from up here that is for the biome that you are at. So for instance, this goat tan has the flower up there, and you can choose differently for each biome. So I may take 1 flower and choose to take 1 goat tan. The display is not refilled until the end of your turn. The next option you can do is you can play a card, and when you do the play a card option, you can play up to 2 cards. When you look at the cards, you're going to see a couple different things. This is how much they cost to put out. So this Florital costs 1 fruit and 1 mushroom. This is the type of creature it is. It is an insect, butterfly, however you want to call it, and it is part of the fruit biome. The lightning bolt means this is a instant effect, which is this is hatch 1 egg to gain 1 egg of your choice, and then this is endgame scoring. Another option is these ones with the bell. These happen, this is endgame scoring, so in this instance, end of game, I'm going to gain a victory point per any fish in your reserve. And you can tell that by the symbols up there and for the eggs. You have these energy cards. They show an amount of energy here. When you play them, you're going to grab energy from the supply, place it on this card. Then, as a free action, you can discard an energy to do what it denotes on here, which is discard 1 energy above to gain any 1 resource, then convert any number of 1 type of resource with another resource. Then finally, you have these with the little hourglass. These are going to trigger when you take a recharge action. So this says when recharging, draw 1 card, then gain 1 egg of its species. So for an example, if I did decide to play a card, I can play this Florital. I would spend a mushroom. I would spend my fruit. I would place them out, and then I'd do the instant one of hatching my egg, then grabbing an egg of my choice. We'll go ahead and grab the butterfly, placing that on here, which shows a symbol of grabbing 1 card from the market of my choice. Again, though, not refilling until the end of your turn, because at this point, if you had enough resources, you could play a second card, such as I can with this Goat Titan, 1 and 2. So when you play an instant card, you can now just cover it up and leave the symbols, because the only instant card you'll hear about is your last one, because there are cards that can trigger your last played instant card. This one is activate 1 special effect icon on a flower habitat on the map. You're going to see these little white circles down here. Those are special abilities that I'll get into when I get into free actions. But this one is I can trigger 1 of these. So this one is I could just take a flower like so, because that would be a flower action. This would be to flip over an egg. There are other icons that are depicted in the rulebook. So that is a play a card action. The third option you have is to complete an achievement. To complete an achievement, you need to accomplish what is depicted on there. So for these top 3, it's whoever does it first. Whoever has 8 eggs, they need to be unhatched. So this would need to be this way. Then, if you accomplish this one, you will flip over, hatching all of the eggs you used to accomplish this. This one is having 6 of the same biome in your area. This is having 14 cards or more in your reserve. These bottom ones depict species. These, when you accomplish this, you can choose the top or the bottom, depending on what you qualify for. This bottom one here would be having 3 primate symbols. This is 6. So if you only have 4, you can only accomplish the bottom. Same thing for this one with birds. The multi-species is you can add up the amount of species you have, and if you have 5 of them, you can go down here. If you have 8 of them combined, you can go there. When you complete an achievement, you are going to take one of your markers. It can be any of them. You're going to take it and place it on the achievement that you accomplished. So as the first one to do this, you will then take a trophy from the board and placing it in your area. This one I took gave me 1, 2, and 3 points. The fourth action you can do is recharge. You can only recharge when all of your workers are on the board. When you recharge, you are going to retrieve all of your crew members. You are then going to advance the time tracker and do what is denoted on there. In this instance, if there's this time token, you are going to flip it over. You are going to grab the egg bag, and you're going to add eggs on that icon, just like you did at the beginning of the game. And then in this instance, you will get a net. In the instance of this icon, you are going to get a net, and then you are going to sweep the display. It shows 2 broom symbols, so you're going to sweep both sides. If there's only 1 broom symbol, you choose the left or the right. You remove all cards that are there, and then refill it. So in this instance, we discard all 6 and put out 6 new cards. You're then going to discard cards from your hand until you have only 5 left. That is the only time the hand limit comes into effect, is that specific time of the recharge phase. Then after that, you are going to activate any recharge cards in your hand or in your display. So if I had been like this, I discard down to 5, I have 5. This one is when recharging, draw 1 card, then gain an egg of its species. I now have 6, but that doesn't matter because I am past the point of having to discard down to 5. There are 2 free actions. One I've already gone over, and that is if you have a card with energy on it. As a free action, you can use the energy to trigger their ability. The second free action is using a net. A net has 2 uses. One is I can use the net to take an adjacent egg from the board and place it into my reserve. The other option for a net is you can use it to trigger a special ability on an adjacent biome to one of your workers. So in this instance, if I had my egg flipped over in the hatch side, I could use this to flip my egg. While using nets, you can only trigger a special ability once, so I can't use 2 nets to trigger this ability a second time. However, if something else in the game allows you to trigger a flower ability, such as that card that I played earlier, then you would still be able to trigger it. So had I used a net on this one to flip over an egg and then played this card, I would still be able to use this ability because it's based off of the card and not the net. The score track has various icons around the board. When you're going down, when you get to 5, 25, and 40, you are going to choose one of these discovery tiles over here and then place it on the board on one of the water spots, getting the egg if there is one. At 10, 15, 20, 35, and 45, you'll get a net. At 30 and 50, you will just take a trophy without putting out an achievement marker. And then if you wrap around and pass those again, nothing else happens. A couple of small things that are denoted on your board is you can only have 3 nets. If you ever go to get a 4th net, instead you just get a point. Same thing if you go to put out one of your achievement markers and you don't have one, you'll get 2 points. And if you try to have more than 12 eggs, you'll get 2 points. Each player will have this special captain meeple, and the captain has a special power that is currently locked on your board. When you place your first achievement marker out, you will unlock that ability, and then that ability will go into effect immediately, but only for your meeple worker that has your captain on them, as denoted by this symbol here. Once the end game trigger of all the trophies being gone happens, and everyone else has taken their final turn, you're going to move into end game scoring. You are going to score any of your end game cards, such as this Wolfture. You are going to score all the creature card points in your reserve, all of your completed achievement slots, because again, with this being red, it doesn't happen until the end of the game. You're going to get 3 victory points for every trophy, and 1 victory point for every 4 resources and nets combined. So in that instance right here, that would be 1 end of game victory point. And as usual, most points wins the game. That is how you play Wondrous Creatures. Hope that gave you some insight on how the game plays. There are a couple of little small things that will be in there that you may discover on your own. And as I said, there is the expansions that do add certain levels with like these gigantic beasts that you're able to get instead. And that's another way of triggering your leader ability, your captain ability. So if I could go ahead and get you to head down below and hit the like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell button. Maybe let me know if you've been looking at the cards, which creator intrigued you the most. Also down there is a link to our new theme that is Ko-fi, where you can go ahead and buy me a drink to help support the channel and continue our videos as we have been publishing them. So, until next time, I wonder who. Alright, so that is how you play Wondrous Creatures. We are going to start off by looking inside the box. If you want a detailed look inside the box, you can check the listing up above right there, and that'll take you to our unboxing of it. So what I'm going to say is that we do have the deluxe version, so there is quite a few things that are deluxeified in our copy, like we have metal trophies, I believe there's some other wooden bits and bobs and such, but I will say that when we got it, the actual copy that we got first had the punch boards, and the punch board stuff does still feel decent quality. It's not super thin. It did feel okay. The deluxe components, however, are really, really good. We really enjoy the metal trophies, the wooden eggs, all of that stuff just felt really good in the hand and just really elevated the experience for us. So we really do suggest getting those if you really like that deluxeified copy. Outside of that, the punch board seemed that should work fine. It was decent quality. As I said at the beginning, one of the things that drew me in was the magnetic meeples that go on the little animals to be able to put out there, and yeah, that is satisfying. That is just really cool putting them on there, and that way you're not stuck with a certain captain because you're playing a certain color, like happens in a lot of games. Like, oh, you want to play green? All right, you're always going to play this captain. Being able to have where you can interchange them like that does add that whole fun element of asymmetry to it. The artwork is fantastic. It really draws you in. They do a good job with like the card frames, laying out the information on the cards. Everything is well laid out. I will say some of the cards, though, if they have like a longer ability or multiple abilities, the print can get small at times. So like they don't have a consistent print size throughout the game. There's some where there's not many words, so the print's large. Somewhere it is a little smaller, so that can be an issue. But outside of that, everything else is clearly defined. I really like that for the cost. They always have it lined up in the same way as opposed to just, going top to bottom. Like if you have the fruit and the mushrooms and being right on top of each other. No, the fruit's in the same spot, the mushrooms in the same spot. So that makes it easy that when you like hold two cards together, you can just add across and see if you have enough stuff. I always like it when games kind of do that whole little line up there as opposed to just listing it off. It just makes it easier to discern the information you are wanting to get. The player boards themselves, really nice, really functional. They have the iconography there. They have like, if you have more than 3 nuts, what you get. If you need to put on achievement, what you get. If you have more eggs than what you get. So it's not stuff you have to remember. So putting all that information on there, laying it out how they did, really does add to the user's experience and kind of helps you stay focused on the game. There are the player aids to expound on everything else, but that player board is a good central information hub with the captain. The captain would mean double layer. The captain just slides in there, and then they even have the little indent thing so you can still see the net. There seemed to be a lot of care taken into this to make sure everything kind of fit well where it needed to be and lined up perfect. I will say there really isn't an insert in the box. There's like a cardboard insert where you can put the cards, but to get everything in there with that cardboard insert is quite a bear and kind of hard to do. So we probably will be ditching that and just kind of laying everything in there. But yeah, there's really not an insert to speak of per se. It's just a cardboard insert that kind of holds it. Outside of that, though, the rulebook itself is laid out in a manner I enjoy. If I remember correctly, it's kind of how they laid out their rulebook in the other game we played from, Life of the Amazonia, where it's like, section 1, section 2, section 3, and it starts off with like, here's what everything is, here's your actions, here's your free actions, here's the end of game. So they have it broken out into sections and clearly defined each sections. And even with this one, they gave you plenty of examples to walk you through like how each action happens, how this will happen here, how this will move around here. So that they do a very good job of making sure that the rule book gives you the examples and explains everything well, so you do know how to play the game on your first go. Moving on to the 2-player experience. So for a 2-player game, you use the opposite side of the board. That's for 1 or 2 players. You do less trophies than you would for a 3 and 4-player game, and then your the achievement cards have an opposite side for less players as well. With playing 2 players, I didn't feel like we really added the discovery tiles as much as I would have liked to really kind of like make spots better, because with only the 2 of us, and especially if one of us isn't scoring well throughout the game, they're not really getting to those spots. So not many tiles are really getting added early in the game. And then as you get later in the game, we didn't necessarily bring back or do the recharge action as much, so we didn't really utilize a lot of those spaces that did get put out near the end of the game. I just feel like with more players, Granted, the map would be bigger, but you'd be putting out more of those discovery tiles and enhancing spots more often throughout the game. Also, even though it was a smaller map with only 2 players, it rarely ever felt like someone was in the exact spot that you for sure needed. There usually was some way of working around it. There were some spots that are better than others that might get taken, but there is enough maneuverability on the map with 2 players that you can get typically to something that you need to be able to do something. Going into gameplay, this game does have certain gameplay elements that we really enjoy. We are fans of worker placement games. Bry especially loves games where you're going and you're collecting stuff to do something. So this is you're collecting all these things and you're collecting these cards to be able to put out, and then that's the doing something. You're putting these cards out to get these achievements. So there's, collecting stuff to get stuff and getting that stuff to get this other stuff, which is a really cool element we like. The parts that I really like with it is that because when you put your worker out, instead of just getting the resource from where you put yourself, it's all of the hexes around it. With it being a larger animal that covers 2 hexes, you have all those hexes around you. And then when you get it from there, you can choose either the resource or a card from that biome. So then it adds that whole new layer of element of thinking and strategy of, am I going to grab this card that I need, or do I want to make sure I get the stuff to be able to put out these cards that I want? And then with the variety of abilities and actions on those cards, certain cards you want to get out earlier, certain cards you want to get out late. Like if it's got a recharge ability, you obviously want to prioritize that so you can use it as much as you can throughout the game. There's the cards that cost less if you get out more of that biome. But you can't just hoard these cards until you can play them, because when you recharge, you have to discard down to 5. So you really have to optimize your hand strategy, when you're going to put stuff out, and when you are going to take resources as opposed to even more cards. And then the whole, when you take the play a card action, instead of only playing 1 card and just feeling kind of slow with that, the fact that you can play 2 cards. So it does help you empty out your hand. And it does make it more worthwhile to go and get more resources, because it's not like you're just going to get a couple resources and be able to put out 1 card. If you, net a ton of resources, then you can start putting out, the 2 cards on your turn and really building up your tableau quicker, especially working towards those achievements. And speaking of nets, the nets are a really cool free action ability that limits you to 3, and that is so that you can't have these weird, crazy, big, ridiculous turns that can really hamstring your opponent. Like by only having 3 nets, you can only technically do up to 3 free actions, but then you have to, get those nets again. And that the tiles have those little bonus actions on them. That it starts out with, you might be able to take another mushroom action or maybe flip an egg. But then once you start getting to some of those other tiles, the discovery ones, some of those have some really cool powers. Like, grab 2 cards and keep 1, or sweep and then take a card from the market. So the abilities that they put on those that you can trigger that possibly help you, even instead of having to, say, place a worker, that now you can trigger and do something else, like either get an achievement because you're able to get that egg you wanted, or be able to get a card that you now have the resources for, etc. That's really cool, and the fact that you can use that to go ahead and grab those eggs, because that may also inform where you're going to put your character. The captain abilities, the fact that all the captain abilities are fresh and different and use, they're basically like the regular powers, except better. Like they're an upgrade from some of them. It's like, you might have this egg power that does this, but your captain can do this every time you place it. The one I like is normally it costs you 1 to put on mountains. There's a captain where it doesn't cost you. And some of those mountain spaces are very lucrative. So being able to put my captain there for free, really helpful. And that's one of those things, like, do I rush and go ahead and grab that right away? Like, say, get an achievement out there right away to unlock it, and then that way I can have my captain's abilities longer, or do I wait until I can score maximum points for it? That whole strategy level there. The fact that when you claim an achievement that you can trigger even more stuff, because when you use an achievement marker, you get whatever benefits there, and that may trigger more abilities. And with those achievements, that the end game is always looming and always moving forward. Like, if you aren't grabbing those, well, guess what? Once you each reach these certain spots, you're taking trophies. And if that time track ever gets to the end, once someone recharges, a trophy just gets discarded. So it has built-in mechanisms so the game can't go on forever, that the game will eventually just make itself end if you aren't pushing that forward. And by using or getting benefits from those achievement markers, it's actually enticing you to claim those achievements and not just letting them sit there. So overall, this may ruin my score. I really love this game. As I said, just the numerous combos, the tons of abilities on the cards, the possibility of chaining actions to do certain things. Some of the animals let you play other cards for free, or some of them let you play a card straight from the display, etc. Just the vast majority of those powers that can do really cool things and cause you to almost break the rules at times really drew me in. The cards, they have an evolution that you've seen in certain other games where, like, you have this one that does this power, well, this one does that power but might cost a little less, or it might be worth more points and cost a little more. So once you can kind of see that evolution of that animal. The solo part of this, the solo game itself, runs really smooth. There's not much overhead on my part. There's not much thinking that I need to do for that dummy player. I can really just focus on what am I doing, where am I going, what is my strategy, and what is my plan. It's just, this game has just so many of those small things that I find interesting and fun, all rolled into one, and that just is really what brings it in. So overall, I am going to say it go excellent. I am going to give this a 9 out of 10. This is definitely one I keep wanting to come back to and playing over and over and over again. Alrighty, so that is how I think it go. Now, if you could please go down below and hit the like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell button for this channel and this video, and then let me know if you have played this and what you think of it. Also, while you're down there, you can check out our Ko-fi. It's something new we start where you can help support the channel by buying me a drink, and we can toast to my 9. Alrighty, until next time, I wonder who.